Hi, this is Charles Elliott. I'm a lawyer in Alexandria, Louisiana. And I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about the Article 3 of Constitution, which is the judicial branch. In our earlier video, and if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. The first three parts of the Constitution deal with the president, the legislature, and the court system. So Article 3, the court system, if you can't believe this, it's very small. It fits on these pages right here of what's going on in the federal court system. And I thought it would be helpful if I talked about some of the cases against Donald Trump to show you the context of the federal court system versus the state court system. In no particular order, I'm going to go through some of the cases that President Trump's involved in and talk to you about how the federal courts or the state courts should be in charge of what's going on. So the first case I want to talk about is there was a recent case where the state court judge in New York imposed a substantial civil penalty, not criminal, on Donald Trump for $153 million. So that's a state case, not constitutional, not anything, except for the fact that the penalty was so outrageous that Donald Trump has the opportunity to go through the federal system to say that this violates the Eighth Amendment. The Eighth Amendment says that you can't have excessive fines or penalties. In a case where there were no victims, the banks were happy with the money that they loaned, everybody was happy except for the prosecutor, this could be a case that ends up in the U.S. Supreme Court. So while it is a state case, there can be federal constitutional implications. The second case is a case that's generally referred to as the documents case, which is in a federal court in Florida. The judge in that case was appointed by President Trump during his term. And federal judges, as just described in the Constitution, are appointed for life. They have to be approved by the Senate. Judge Cannon was recommended by President Trump. She was approved by the Senate, and she sits on the federal bench there in Florida for the rest of her life or until she retires. The reason that we're in federal court is because there's a federal law involved in determining whether President Trump violated the law or not. The federal courts only deal with cases involving federal law, federal constitution, disputes between citizens of two different states, disputes between the states, and a bunch of other stuff that usually doesn't come up. In this case, there is a question about selective prosecution because Joe Biden had documents at his house that he turned over. Mike Pence had documents at his house that he turned over. Bill Clinton had documents in his sock drawer that he turned over. But somehow President Trump is the only one who's being prosecuted for this crime. It's going to be an interesting case to see how that ends up. The next case, this is in New York. It's a state criminal case, and they have selected a jury. They're having opening arguments on Monday, and this case involves alleged violation of state law. The underlying facts are that Stormy Daniels, who is a stripper porn star, alleged long time ago that she and Donald Trump had an affair, and she was going to bring this to the tabloids. Donald Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, paid her $135,000 to sign a non-disclosure agreement to keep the story quiet, and then he went to the Trump organization and said, I need to be paid back. Somehow the money was repaid to Michael Cohen, and it was written up as lawyer fees. So this whole case involves Donald Trump allegedly, this is all allegedly, paying someone to keep quiet about their story, which is not illegal. His lawyer was the one who transacted the deal, which is not illegal. And the only dispute is whether these expenses should have been written up as lawyer fees, and I'm not even sure what crime that is. But it's been stretched by the prosecutor in New York to somehow turn into Donald Trump didn't treat voters fairly because they didn't know that he had paid a porn star to go away. That's it. That's the whole case. And they're trying to turn this into a felony when it's really just a misdemeanor. It's amazing that all of these cases have shown up right before the election. The last one is a Georgia election fraud claim, and this is one you may have seen some information about the prosecutor having a relationship with one of her employees and all of that, which has nothing to do with the case, but it's based on Georgia law, and so the trial is happening in Georgia's state court, and there are no federal implications in this, although the prosecutor did go meet with the vice president to talk about something. We don't know what. It's pretty clear that someone has coordinated, in my opinion, all of these cases to rain down on President Trump so that he can't campaign. They're going to strap him for money, and we'll just have to see how this all shakes out, because the country's never been in this position before, where we have two relatively old people who have been president before running for office, and one of them is being prosecuted all over the country by different, generally Democrat prosecutors. So we'll see what happens. In the past, we've had other presidents who have had trouble, like Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon was accused of knowing about a break in to the other party's headquarters, and that's really it. But he was facing impeachment, and he resigned to avoid that. When Gerald Ford came into office, he looked around and looked at what was going on in the country and decided that it was better to pardon President Nixon for whatever he had done and heal the country and let us move on. And just like in this case, if you get down to the roots of what these cases are about, at the end of the day, you say, well, that's kind of silly. I'm concerned that in this case, President Trump is such a divisive character, and half of the country likes him and half of the country doesn't like him, that these prosecutions, and again, if you get down to the root of it, they're all kind of silly, but they're being treated very seriously, and they could ultimately result in him going to jail. It's better for our country to have an election. If you don't like Donald Trump, don't vote for him. If you do like him, vote for him. But trying to keep him off the ballot, as has been attempted already in a number of states, is not the best way for our country to heal and move forward and unify. So I would encourage all of you to find out what's going on, vote for who you want to vote for, but give everyone an opportunity to be on the ballot. So thanks for listening to me. I hope you tune in next week. We'll try to get something interesting. Please let me know if there's something you want me to talk about.